Gentlemen, I think we should be able to move on without the very last points that you want to make. It's okay. It's okay. We should move on. Don't worry. We should move on.
Oh, really?
Now, yes, we should move on. Now, let's go to Kotoka International Airport. Right, how do we go to Kotoka International? Let's go through NACOP, and we are carrying 12 kilos of cocaine, and we go through NACOP. We take it to Kotoka International Airport. We are not sure whether we are using the VVIP, but maybe we used it, and we go through. Yeah. We are on board a plane to Heathrow Airport, and we are carrying an Austrian passport. We have one Ghanaian passport, and do we have a diplomatic one on us also? Not sure about that. Well, we get to Heathrow, thankfully, NACOP, which allowed us to go through the process, tells the police in Heathrow to arrest us. So we arrested with the 12 kilos of cocaine, and that has a street value of $5 million. That's a lot. Now we've been arrested, we've been put behind bars, we have a court hearing coming up, and our embassy or High Commission in the UK would like to visit us. What's wrong about that? Is there anything wrong with that? Well, someone in Accra is arrested for putting out that story and putting some slant to it, or having some very inaccurate photo to that particular story. In the end, what happens? He's invited to the BNI. His lawyer is disallowed from being part of the discussion. They have some 4 minutes of the discussion about that issue, and the rest they talk about football and what else. Thank you very much. They come on their flag, and the president said what happened is justified. The Ghana Bar Association says, Mr. President, you're wrong. The BNI was wrong. This ought to stop. We are waking up this morning to news that 3 other persons have been arrested through surveillance that were done by BNI. What is going on? Kuku? Yeah. What is going on as far as this story is concerned? I don't want to limit you to an aspect of it.
Well, I wish I knew the full story. But it's obvious that NACOP has become a...
Sorry. The Deputy Finance Minister has to leave us at this point, and in place of him, we'll have Abraham Amaliba join us. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. I thought you were going to give me a last bite on the budget. But
no, it's okay. It's okay. Let's end it here. We'll discuss the budget for the rest of the coming week.
Okay. Thank you very much. Many thanks.
Right.
Yes, it's obvious that NACOP is a casualty. At least its governing board is a casualty in this whole saga. Yeah. We need further and better particulars. I know it is not obligatory on the part of government to give reasons, but I think good governance demands it because of all the speculations and the debate and controversy. It would be a very useful thing if government were to explain why at this particular time, in the wake of this scandal, the governing board of NACOP is dissolved. 2, because there was a statement that came from NACOP much earlier in relation to this incident, which was suspect, so it was, if you see, let's say, of dubious validity in terms of 1 or 2 aspects of that statement. So people will read a lot into it. So public, in terms of accountability and transparency, I think government must come with more information.
What was dubious about the statement released by NACOP on the 17th of November on the arrest of Nayeli Ametefe? It simply put out facts that it could confirm that indeed such a person had been arrested with the cocaine as being claimed, and that arrest was done on the 10th of November 2014. And they sought to let all of us know that was done with their collaboration. It's not that she slipped through here and got to the Heathrow and got arrested there. And also the claims about she using a diplomatic passport, they sought to deny that, and other things.
Well, that was dubious, especially with emphasis on the collaboration factor. I, last Wednesday, raised certain issues, and I would repeat them here. And, because if there was collaboration, as they claim, the girl was arrested somewhere 10th November.
Right.
At the airport. not in town in London, but at the airport. So it means nobody was just waiting to see whether she had a network within the UK jurisdiction. So sometimes it would make sense that allow her to pass, let's see who and who are dealing with her. She's just busted right at the airport. Then why didn't we bust her here? Because it means that whatever collaboration we've done, surveillance, reconnaissance, all those things may, over a period of time, may have told us her network and who she deals with. So right in terms of possessing the illegal drug, we could have busted her at the Kotoka International Airport.
So are you not aware of Operation Westbridge? That NACOB is in active collaboration with the British?
No, that's well known. That's an open thing, we all know. But we are talking of a specific case of somebody who has actually been able to swerve that system, that whole system that is there. And so we are asking questions. I am told reliably that indeed she didn't carry that bag that contained the drug. True.
She didn't check that one.
Yes, she went on the flight before somebody brought it. So again, if there was collaboration, it means she was being washed. If she was being washed, the arrest that we are told has happened now ought to have happened earlier. Okay, the girl was busted somewhere 10th November in the UK. NACOB issued their statement some 7 or 8 days later. Now you have informed us that there have been some 3 arrests. When did those arrests take place? Then or now?
No, we are being told about them now. Not,
sure.
I don't know when exactly.
No, but then the NACOB statement should have indicated that that collaboration had led to arrest also within Ghana. You see, you are informing people in a situation where there was so much speculation, rumor mongering, and all the rest. That's why I said that statement, well, maybe I should be fair to them and not say of dubious validity, but had some serious deficit. And was a very poor attempt at
explaining. Is it too much to think, Kweku, that NACOB could have allowed her, even if they were aware, to allow her to take it through, because as we are being told, we are hearing from some courtesies, that was the best way, ensure that she takes it away along with her, so that you are able not to pick just she alone, but all others who are connected. But if you took her here, you may have stopped the opportunity of getting to know the others.
I am saying that when those who sent the things to her on flight, when were they picked up? So if they had been picked up much earlier, that NACOB statement, we needed to know that. It was important that some arrests to have been effected. You were talking of an arrest in the UK that you said you took part in processing. So what stopped you from telling us of the arrest, the local version of the arrest in that statement? What stopped you? In any case, coming with all this dissolution of the border, it tells you something went wrong. And don't forget the UK, the High Commission here has also issued a certain statement that doesn't help the cause of NACOB. Clearly, something went wrong. And that statement that was issued does not have much credibility as far as I'm concerned. You know, as for the invitation extended to the media in terms of a CEO of the City FM and the graphic editor, I thought was avoidable. Look, we have had precedents of sometimes how to deal with these things. Just because a diplomatic passport was brought into the equation, the ministry, nothing stopped the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the Ministry of Communications, either jointly or separately, from actually telling the world that we have not issued such a diplomatic passport and things. And if you thought there was something very basically wrong, to lodge a complaint with the National Media Commission. Look, recall the Martin case. Joy FM, indeed, you had a correspondent, our own colleague, Kofi Abusi. He filed a report from the US, if you recall, talking about a list of names that he had, because Martin had allegedly mentioned those names of ministers, deputy ministers, and members of parliament. Very explosive report, which subsequently the NDC picked up and ran with as part of their campaign. What the government did, then Minister of Information, I think Dambotri, on behalf of government, lodged a complaint with the National Media Commission for the matter to be investigated and asked Joy Multimedia to retract and apologize, which was subsequently done because it turned out that that was a false report. We have a precedent. Sometimes the way to deal with some of these things, instead of, you know, inviting or arresting and then not giving access to their lawyers, because it did happen. I thought it was unfortunate that the president has come
Take a breather at that point. Now, thank you for joining us, Abraham Amaliba.
Thank you.
Now, what do you... Okay, let me go to the phone lines rather now and try and see if I can speak to Mr. Anthony Smith, former NACOP commander at the Kotoka International Airport, who is quite familiar with this lady in question.
Oh, really?
Yes, very familiar with this lady in question. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us on Newsfile.
Thank you very much, Samson. Good morning to your panelists, Fifi, lawyer AA, and Uncle Kukubaku.
Okay. Now, let me put it out there. I said former, meaning he's not presently with NACOP. Let's start from this point. What do you make of the dissolution of the board of NACOP?
Samson, to be very frank with you, I really think that we just have to take a step back and not throw the baby with the bathwater. My encounter with NACOP was under both President Kufuor and the late President Knowles. So I was the commander at the airport in 2009. Okay, I hope that when you do your research, you'll find out that in August 2009, it was around 2 a.m. in the morning after all the flights had left. At the time, the central screening point of aviation security was before the demonstrations at the departure lab. If you can remember, you guys have been going there last, so you should know it. So these two cleaners had gone through, cleaned the KLM lounge, business lounge. They were taking their trash out. And when they were coming back with their trash can, they had placed 5 kilos of cocaine in the trash can. So apparently, the idea was to bring in an empty trash can back to the Akbaba lounge. And they had 5 kilos of cocaine in there. So with the help of aviation security, we arrested the boy. The other one escaped because he was way back. He escaped. And when we arrested Daniel Kabute, he mentioned that Ruby gave him the stuff to go and place it in the KLM lounge so that she will subsequently come and then take it away. Seriously, it was after the security checkpoint, because KLM lounge was way behind it. So that was very a person was doing it, and she used a cleaner. So one point is that we should just take a step back and take a look at how best we can solve this problem.
Okay. Now just a small point. Just a small point. Are you suggesting to us that since 2009, when this Ruby Dujemfi, as we know, she's Nayele Ametefe, we understand she uses several aliases so that she can get away. Are you saying that she must or should have been on NACOP's radar since then?
That is exactly what I'm saying.
Okay.
So Ruby, she was, but the name that we got from Daniel Kabute, who is serving his time in his home right now, was Ruby Apia. We went to his house in a general area of Achimota Golf Club. Okay. Around that general area. I don't want to give the specific location because of security reasons.
All right.
She lives right there. We went there, did a thorough search of her house, and subsequently we arrested one of her sisters who came to the house posing as a Sunday school teacher or something. We arrested her. The cleaner was using a BMW at the time. That car was impounded and sent to NACOP headquarters. And as I'm talking to you right now, at the time I left NACOP in 2010, the car was still at NACOP headquarters. So the thing is that anytime we make an arrest, we make sure that our international collaborators all have the names of people that we are targeting. So it is assumed that Ruby Apia's name should be on NACOP's watch list, and on our foreign partners, the Westbridge and the DA watch list. That one is something that should be said.
Right. But
so when Mr. Blankson came out and said that there was a collaboration going on for the arrest of her, at some point, he has a really very good point there. I'm not too sure whether there was a control delivery with this particular arrest, but I know for sure that Ruby Apia's name has been on a wanted list for some time. And you know, Ghana, because of budgetary constraints, we maybe a case was old over the years, and the case.
You use the terminology control delivery. What does that mean?
So control delivery is where we realize that somebody is carrying drugs, and then we arrange with the destination point to try to put somebody on the flight to monitor that person. we give heads up to the arriving country, and then we monitor it and they pick out the person there, get all the collaborators involved, and then so that is the control delivery.
Right.
So that's what I'm saying. I'm not too sure whether this particular case.
Don't worry. Let's take it one by one. Just don't worry. Let's take it one by one. Now, after the statement that was issued to tell Ghanaians that there was a collaboration, we have had the British High Commission issue a statement and categorically deny that there was any such collaboration as far as this was concerned.
Yeah, this is why I'm saying something that this Ruby Appiah's name has been on the watch list since 2009.
Understood.
You get it? So this 2009 name has been there. So I expect that the security agencies will generate the various aliases attached to Ruby Appiah's name and get her. But I'm saying that because of Bajaji's constraint and because of the fact that this case has been pulled over the years and we've not gotten her, maybe we relaxed a bit and then she fell through the cracks. But so I really believe that because of the education of the United Kingdom, they might have, it's possible that it could have generated her aliases and then gotten her. But I know for sure that we gave the name to the UK, the United Kingdom government.
At the time that, hypothetical, at the time that you were commander of the airport security, tell us, would you allow such 12 kilos of cocaine that you have discovered here in Ghana to be done through a controlled delivery so that you don't arrest here, but you would rather allow the UK to arrest the person?
Something to be frank with you, the answer is an emphatic no. And especially so when Ruby was on our watch here, there was no way that Ruby can carry 12.5 kilos of cocaine, which is like half a bag of cement. Carry that heavy stuff without and then beat all the eagle eyes of NACOP staff and the aviation security staff at the airport and take it like that. And so I guess that is particularly the modus operandi of how she operates. That she uses people who are least suspected to carry stuff. So I will go back and raise the point earlier in the week that maybe somebody might have carried it somewhere for her to pick it up. I totally agree with it.
Yeah, we understand presently that 3 persons have been arrested. We understand also that this particular package, she didn't check it in. So we understand that someone else took it to her later while she was on the flight. Is it possible for all this to go on without using the VVIP?
Oh, you remember that during the late President Moses' presidency, we were asked to come to the VVIP to do a search on President Moses. He was not traveling to the United Kingdom. So the DPO called me and 2 other officers to go in there to interact with the president. So after that interaction with the president in the VVIP, he apparently wanted us to search him and search his entourage who were going to the UK at the time. So after that interaction, we got a presidential mandate to place a NACOP station in a VVIP launch. So in the VVIP launch, before I left Ghana in 2010, we had NACOP station and then we have an access security station. So with these 2 prying eyes, something is difficult to carry 12.5 and beat them just like that and take it on to the tarmac. So I believe that maybe somebody must have done something without going through the scanners and then placing it somewhere for her to pick it up.
Okay, so very finally maybe, so it is very possible. Now we're hearing people mentioning that those who might have taken it to her are actually officials of NACOP. Does that happen?
Oh yeah. What happens is that NACOP officers have access to the tarmac. Okay, but before we get to the tarmac, we go through some checks. So I'm not too sure how they must have done that. Yes, we can drive on the tarmac and stuff. I'm not too sure. Maybe the security lasts along the line. But yes, NACOP really have access to the tarmac. But over the years, I don't know what
can any other staff at Kotoka International Airport, apart from NACOP or security officials, do what is being suggested was done, deliver the package? without it going through the check?
I just the case of Daniel.
Yes, you did.
Who was a cleaner. So somebody you least expected.
Okay.
That guy is serving assignment in Sao. He's a cleaner. He's not part of the security apparatus at all.
All right.
So he uses people like that to do her job, and not necessarily security. I'm not suggesting that security staff cannot do it.
Okay.
But she can use people who are least suspecting to do her job for her.
Okay, but
I should say that the statute of limitation on her case, I don't think it's expired. You are a lawyer, you can correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, there's no statute of limitation as far as a crime.
After the prosecution and the serving the sentence in the UK, she will still come back to Ghana and then go to court for that 5 kilos that we apprehended in 2009 at the airport.
All right. Okay. Now, thank you very much. But you are not too enthused about the dissolution of the board and calls for the head of the place to be sacked?
Seriously, I'll work with Mr. Christopher. I didn't get the opportunity of working with Mr. Blanchard because I left before he started as a deputy executive secretary. But this is what I'm saying. Now, looking at the integrity of Mr. Christopher, I'm not too sure that he's going to let things like that go unchecked. He is somebody who is very thorough. So I'm just pleading that the conversation should be put in some perspective so that we don't throw the baby with the bathwater.
Okay.
We should be very, very cautious in dealing with this so that NACOP and the security agency set up to arrest some of these things will not be duly affected.
Thank you very much for your time, sir.
Thank you, boss.
Okay. And we just have been speaking to Mr. Anthony Smith. He's a former NACOP commander at the Kotoka International Airport and very familiar with this particular evasive lady who has now been arrested. Now, Abraham, he points out clearly that this was an obvious security breach and it doesn't look as if it could have been done by someone other than insiders.
Yeah, and I like the point he made that sometimes the drug pushers would use unsuspecting people to facilitate, like the cleaners, and you will never suspect that the cleaner will be in such a situation with them. This goes to buttress the point that criminals are always one step ahead of the security people, and that calls for vigilance. But you see, no matter how vigilant you are, no matter how high your security guard is, sometimes there will be a breach. And that's how come we have 9/7 in the US. But the issue has to do with where you have deliberate attempts by security agencies, as in this story unfolding, not doing their work. Then it calls for some worrying. You see, NACOP earlier on came out with a statement that they assisted or they collaborated. The British High Commission has debunked that. I think the minister...
Even before they did that, Dr. Manebuama has said he doesn't believe in that.
Okay. Now, I want them... The ball is now thrown back to them. They should come and tell Ghana the nature of the collaboration. I heard the gentleman indicate that they have shared some information with their counterparts in the UK.
Since 2009,
yeah, particularly
when this lady's name came up.
Particularly in terms of her alliances or aliases, in terms of the various names that she has. Could that be the nature of collaboration they are talking about?
Yeah, but that's historical one, not specific to this case.
Well, he suggests that they may have gone to sleep.
I'm not holding brief for them.
All right.
I'm just calling that they should come and tell us the nature.
Okay, now
the last
just
point has to do with...
just briefly for me, let me finish with the phone conversation. And we're going on the line now to speak to Dr. Kwesi Enin. Dr. Kwesi Enin certainly doesn't need any introduction, and you've heard him suggest elsewhere that he would want some heads to roll as far as this matter is concerned. Doc, good morning and welcome to Newsfile.
Yes, good morning.
Right. You got what you were asking for, is that it? The board has been dissolved.
No, this is not enough. The board sets the broader strategic framework within which the work must be done. It is the day-to-day hands-on operatives who should be reassessed, who wrote that statement, claiming a false partnership in this particular case that was not existent, that should be dealt with. What kind of control mechanisms are in place in terms of the day-to-day performance of people's duties? How are those duties monitored and evaluated over time? This must be done extremely quickly, because what this false press statement has done is that our international collaborators, in terms of issues relating to money laundering, the fight against narcotics, human trafficking, piracy, and money laundering, and terrorist financing, just don't trust us again. Because the nature of international collaboration in terms of transnational organized criminal activities, whether there should be trust and transparency amongst partners in terms of their willingness to share information. Now, when you have one of your critical partners deliberately lying and manipulating information and using the credibility of a partner institution to try to stifle investigations in a particular case, that destroys a partnership that we have built since 2006. So it's not a matter of the board being sacked. It's about a total and dramatic, quick overhaul of NACOB as an institution. But that is just the tip of the iceberg.
But these are the experienced hands that we have used over the years. If you throw them away as if throwing the baby with the bathwater, then that's going to be difficult.
No, let's not fool ourselves. Let's not fool ourselves. Narcotics is the single biggest threat to our survival as a nation. And if you read the report of the West African Commission on Drugs, Mr. Kofi Annan is a person who is very cautious. But when Mr. Kofi Annan establishes such a commission, and his commission draws the conclusions that it has drawn, then we need to be careful. That's number one. Number two, when President Mahama was made chair of ECOWAS, the struggle against narcotics was one of the three pillars that he identified. And therefore, this is about the credibility of this country as a whole, our chair of ECOWAS, the nature of our international relations and our partnerships, but also even more critical in terms of the operational side. How did the drugs get in? I'm not too interested in the nationality of the person who carried it out. The fundamental questions deal with how did the drugs get in? What was the quantity? What are the supporting infrastructures and networks that allows these drugs to continue to come into Ghana? How much of it has left already that we didn't detect? How much of it is remaining? So the heads that must roll is not only related to NACOB. It's about understanding the public sector infrastructure and supporting networks that allows this business to continue to grow.
Okay. Now, Doc, sorry, but we need to move on a little quickly.
Yeah, sure.
We have very limited time. Can you tell us this development with the UK High Commission issuing a categorical denial and suggesting to the whole world that NACOB, such a sensitive institution, was telling lies? What are the implications?
Well, that Ghana is not a country that you can do sensitive business with. Bottom line. Because you see, if you look at the documents relating to terrorist financing, most of it comes from narcotics. If you look at the national reports that Ghana submits to the Counterterrorism Executive Directorate in New York, and then to the Counterterrorism Forum in Malta, what this NACOB story does is that no one can trust their partnership with Ghanaian institutions. And that is why it is crucial that dramatic changes are done very quickly, and we signal to our international partners that we are a credible partner and that we have dealt with those who have brought disrepute to this country.
Well, why should such a partnership be completely damaged? For example, if it was found out that it was a NACOP official who delivered this parcel to the lady which had not been checked in, because it's just one person, and you can find that in every institution you find the bad nuts.
Yes, but this is not just a one-off. 2.5 years ago, we discovered a NACOP mafia at the airport made up of 68 people who were facilitating the transport of drugs through Kotoka Airport. We didn't see what happened out of that. But when it was not that one person who issued a statement. That statement of denial and the deliberate manipulative usage and abuse of our partner's name was issued in the name of the institution. So this is an institutional process and an institutional attack on our national identity and our self-perception.
Do I understand that Dr. Kwesi also does not believe that there is an iota of truth in the story of collaboration?
Oh, no. We have collaborated with the UK since 2006.
In respect of this particular situation?
Ghana and the UK, through Operation Westbridge, have been collaborating since 2006. We claimed, NACOP claimed, that it had collaborated on this particular case. And the UK press statement is very clear that whilst we collaborate with NACOP, in this particular case, we did not exchange any information. And therefore, the NACOP statement is wrong.
Why are we too quick to believe that statement against what NACOP is telling us?
Because a government minister, prior to the UK statement, had dissociated government from the NACOP statement. And since I had actually asked for NACOP to explain in detail what was happening, which has not been forthcoming, and since the UK statement, it's more than 24 hours. Nothing has been heard. Now, this is a mega dent on a sensitive security institution in this country.
Dr. Eni, if I may ask this again this way, by your experience and your knowledge of this, terrain, it is unthinkable that this would have been through a controlled delivery, so that NACOP would have been in clear knowledge that she was carrying it, but deliberately allowed Heathrow to rather be the one to apprehend?
It's possible that this could have been a controlled delivery, but the logistics necessary to ensure that this became a controlled delivery is way too mind-boggling. Too many people would have got to know about it, and it would naturally have leaked.
I see.
What I suspect might have happened is that there were certain people here who may have known about this delivery and may have tipped off their colleagues in the UK. That is also highly probable.
I see. Now, there's a very final point. The debate about whether, there was use of diplomatic, passport and use of VVIP lounge. If it does happen, that's really the case, how much more dent does it make to the collaboration, the partnership?
No, it doesn't do any further dent to the partnership. All that it demonstrates is that we talk a lot and we do very little. If you remember, during President Nelson's time and also during President Kufuor's time, there's been a consistent abuse of the access to and the usage of these lounges.
I see.
And therefore, there's a need for a total overhaul through the establishment of a bipartisan committee to say to what extent can we securitize this narcotics problem And how do we ensure that we resource and use extraordinary measures to control this?
And in a minute, before you leave us, when you say total overhaul, what is the nature of the overhaul you're looking at?
Extremely total. Who has access to these passports? Who has access to these lounges? Who has access to get onto the tarmac? Who uses the SPD vehicles from the lounges to the plane or to the gangway of the plane? It must be total. And it can only be total if we securitize the threat posed to us by narcotics and establish a bipartisan committee with the powers of a high court to truly subpoena people to appear before it and to get a document.
Thank you very much.
It's a mega business, and there's a certain total acceptance in our communities about it. I thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Dr. Kwesi Enin is a security analyst with the Kofi Annan Peacekeeping Training Center. Thank you very much indeed for your time. And we have a bit of time to continue with the discussion. We have about 30 minutes, extension. So we are closing the show at 12:30. You were on the point,
yes.
And you were saying,
and yes, on the BNI invitation to the journalists. Mm-hmm. The BNI is part of the security agencies of this country. Mm-hmm. It has powers of arrest, and it has powers of searching residents and persons who they suspect have committed crime. And so the BNI, just like the police, can invite anybody that it suspects has committed an offense. Now, in this case, it is not strictly an issue that falls within the National Media Commissioner Kokubako has pointed out.
No. Finish with this point first. So in this case, there's a suspicion that Samuel Atamensa, who is the manager of the City FM, may have committed what offense?
So that is one way you want me to go, but I'll still go the other way and come here. Now, you notice that the invitation was in respect of the allegation that the lady was carrying a diplomatic passport. Now, this borders on the security of the state and whether that person was qualified to be in possession of that diplomatic passport. So the essence of that invitation to Samuel Atamensa was to aid in unraveling how that happened.
You are repeating the president's story.
No,
they don't know the passport office. They don't know the Foreign Affairs Ministry.
No.
The way to get that information is from a journalist.
No. Even though they know there, in fact, they've invited. I'm sure you are aware that they've invited the passport, the head of the passport.
That was later.
Yes, you don't determine how they.
You
don't sit here and determine who they should invite first, in what way, in what priority. You don't do that. You are not in that institution. So they could decide that because of security reasons, or the modus operandi is we should start from the bottom and come to the top, or we start from the top. That is not within your preserve at all, and you cannot determine that.
They couldn't have done that.
You are arguing.
They couldn't have done that.
Okay. He doesn't determine the time.
I'm just exercising my common sense. Sorry. They couldn't have done that since the NACOP already was collaborating with the British. They couldn't have found out from NACOP. Heathrow, where she was arrested, they couldn't have found out from NACOP or Foreign Affairs Ministry or our High Commission in UK, who must have been informed of the arrest, whether she was carrying a diplomatic passport or not, and what number it was. They could only do that through the manager of a radio station. Is that what you're saying?
Samson, I'm saying to you that after they invited the two journalists or the two managing directors, they went ahead and spoke to the one in charge of passport in this country. If subsequently in their operations they find a need to talk to those people that you are talking about, so be it. But you see, we are all in our areas, professions, and you don't determine how they do their work. The gentleman himself has indicated that it was just a 3 minutes interaction, and afterwards it was about tea and where I think there's a problem, and speaking now as a lawyer, is the penchant of the BNI to detach lawyers from their clients. That I would on every day castigate the BNI for that. There must be democratic ways of doing these things, and there's no reason why you wouldn't allow a lawyer to be by his client whilst you interrogate them. And I think that that is where I have a beef. But what happened was simply an investigation into how that story broke out. What's the source? How do we ensure that that passport, or if it is true, does not happen again? That you cannot falter the BNI for that.
Okay, I'm coming to Kogu Kwarteng, but the bit about the not having access to his lawyer that you speak about, the Ghana Bar Association has issued a very long statement castigating the BNI and suggesting to the president that he was also wrong in to have, you know, come to the defense of the BNI, so to speak. But you're a lawyer. You know that if they denied him access to his lawyer and they sought to extract any information from him, that's also another opportunity for you in court to make nonsense or useless of whatever information they were dealing with.
Indeed, on one occasion when I was at the BNI and I was detached from my client, I had interaction with the gentleman in charge of investigations, and I told him that it is even your interest to allow me sit in there because the evidence that you gather from that may be attacked and will not be used in court. So, and you see, my worry is that the BNI hierarchy are made of lawyers. The man in charge of investigation is a lawyer, the board man is a lawyer, but yet, and you have colleagues who were sitting with them in the law school. You go there, they look at your face and say that you don't need to enter. So I think that there's some tradition in there which must be broken.
Okay. Thank you very much. You're still here on Newsfile, this is your most authoritative news analysis show, and as I announced to you earlier, we are ending the show at 12:30 because of the sensitive matters that we have just begun, you know, touching the surface of those issues. Now, just a bit from the GBA statement that was issued and signed by the President, Nene Amegache, Abayate Amegache, National President, and also the National Secretary, Justin Bali Menuvo. And it says that the Ghana Bar Association notes with great concern a growing trend by the National Security and the Bureau of National Investigations, BNI, and other state security agencies to, quote-unquote, invite journalists ostensibly for questioning or to assist in investigations in media reportage where a government agency or person in government happens to be mentioned. Equally of concern is the president's denial, is a persistent denial of right to counsel in such invitations in breach of the constitutional provisions and the justification given to the invitation by His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Ghana. They denounce all of this. I suppose that, Mr. Kwarteng, what you'll be thinking about is that if they have noted that this happens all the time, how to stop it? What is being done concretely to stop it? Is that not?
Yeah, that's a legitimate question. But I think this BNI thing goes to the very credibility of Ghana as a country. What are we talking about? The expert just told us that a lady has taken cocaine of quantity half of the cement bag.
And that's also supposed to be wrong. It's supposed to be like a quarter of a cement bag, isn't it?
Well, it depends on which cement bag you're
talking
about.
I'm surprised that the former commander himself used half a cement bag.
Yeah. Whether quarter or half, that's a sizable quantity. You in her handbag and is arrested in somebody else's country. And what we see clearly is an attempt by people at the very top of government to suppress facts that we should have. And I would explain. You see, when this matter happened, and why I think government is going this way, when this matter happened, the first response from government was from the Minister of Communication. And he said, one, because people had indicated that the lady went through the VVIP launch, that the lady was holding a diplomatic passport. The minister was very quick, without confirming with the British authorities that arrested the lady. They were very quick to come out and say the lady doesn't hold any diplomatic passport. The lady did not go through the VVIP. It is all lies. That was the first statement we had. Then, quickly, on the heels of that came the statement from NACOP, very similar to that of the minister, except to add that, look, this thing happened because we and the UK authorities, we worked together. And the idea was to let people believe that it is not as though this lady is close to people in government, because we actually worked together with the British authorities for her arrest. So look, we are the clean guys. That was the import of the statement NACOP put out. And then the city FM, Mr. Ataminsa, was arrested by the BNI. We are told here
was
that
it was an invitation.
Well,
but
when
Senior, you know that the invitations are arrest. So let's not debate that.
Well, whatever it is, the BNI people came for him and took him and disallowed him from having the presence of his lawyer.
Okay, but an accurate narrative will be that they didn't come for him. He went there.
He went there.
Yes, he went there first.
That's the invitation.
First with his lawyer, but that time he couldn't have audience, so he was asked to come another time. And the second time when he was going, he went without the lawyer.
Okay.
He got there, met the lawyer in the lobby, but was not being allowed to at the reception. But was not being allowed.
The BNI came in. They came in, and what was their interest? Their interest was to establish whether the statements made in the publication of City FM that the lady held a diplomatic passport was accurate. And then what followed? The president himself. The president himself jumped into the fray and said, look, you people, you journalists, you have to act professionally. And when somebody is not holding a diplomatic...
Okay, since we are quoting the president, hold on. Abraham Abba was just about to attack you on that one. Let's hear what the president said exactly.
The internet and the many information platforms that it offers, from websites to blogs to social media, has created the need for a greater amount of information to be delivered at an even faster pace. In an attempt to meet that need, what sometimes is abandoned at the wayside are the basic principles and ethics of journalism, such as research, fact-checking, and attribution. Let's say a Ghanaian is traveling abroad and is arrested. Let's say it's a Ghanaian woman and she's traveling to London and is arrested with a substantial amount of cocaine. This is all the basic information that everybody knows as a fact. So hypothetically speaking, somebody, let's say this somebody is a Nigerian, hypothetically speaking, posts a fully fleshed out story about a Ghanaian woman's arrest with all manner of details, her various aliases, one of which corresponds to the name of the President of Ghana, and adds on top that she was traveling on a diplomatic passport and that she's friendly with top government officials and was even to be met by the Ghanaian ambassador. Oh yes, it's now become an exciting story. Then what happens next is a Ghanaian broadcaster stumbles across this story on social media. The broadcaster reports the alleged story in total without fact-checking and then posts the reported story on the station's website, citing the source as a Nigerian news website. To add insult to injury, the photograph that has regularly been used along with this story is not even that of the woman who was arrested. It is a photograph of a completely innocent woman who, until her family and friends started calling her to ask about the news story, was just sitting in her own little somewhere, minding her own business. And it's true that nobody reads retractions. Information is like a virus. Once it's released, it spreads indiscriminately. The damage that can be done is often irreversible. The lack of training and experience is often apparent in the articles and reports that are broadcast, some of which are riddled with grammatical and factual errors, as well as inconsistencies. It is a growing problem in this country, one that is affecting the quality as well as the veracity of the news and information we receive. We we must start speaking about it honestly. Constructive criticism is not an attack on media freedom. We must start to define the responsibilities that media men and women have to the public and to the profession. Government, since our return to constitutional democracy and the rule of law, has witnessed and in recent times welcomed the evolution and expansion of Ghana's independent media. Likewise, the media must also recognize that government has evolved and changed. This isn't our father's or your father's BNI. This is the BNI of today. Of course, the core priorities of the institution remain the same, but the way of doing business, the means and the methods has changed. But the media, based on its reporting, would have that institution remain locked in the past. In its investigations, the BNI narrowed down the story's original source of dissemination in Ghana to the radio station and the national newspaper. Both editors were asked, not ordered, to come to the BNI offices to assist them with their investigation. Both editors complied of their own free will. They were not arrested or detained. And both editors have publicly stated that their experience at the BNI was cordial and non-threatening. They have publicly informed that while at the BNI offices, their rights were never violated.
Well, it's interesting that the president says that all of them, those who were arrested, who were, look, let's forget about not saying arrested. They were arrested, and that's what it is. When they send you an invitation, it's an arrest. Because when you get there, you do not enjoy your rights that if you are not arrested, you will enjoy. When you get there, your rights are restricted, and you are treated as someone who is arrested. Now, he was speaking at the National Conference on Broadcasting Pluralism, Press Freedom, and Democratic Governance in Ghana, 20 years after Radio Eye. That was a wonderful program put together by Charles Reku Brobe, Dr. Charles Reku Brobe. Now, so that's what the president had to say.
So the president jumped in the fray, and as we heard him say, what did he seek to do? What he sought to do was to reinforce the objective of the NACOP publication, that the attempt to connect this lady with diplomatic passport and with people in government is a figment of the media's imagination, and that is not right. That was the strategic objective of what the president did.
But you know, a part of what he had to say, sorry for interrupting again, a part of what he had to say was that a photograph that did not belong to the lady in question was put out.
He said a lot of things.
So very libelously, a lady, innocently, Francisca, her photograph was put out as the lady involved.
Yes, a lot of things happened in social media and in the media in respect of this matter, some of which were excesses. But if a country's credibility has been put in the discussions, we ought to isolate those issues that would help us clear our name. And so the president comes in to say this connection with the diplomatic passport and that she used the VIP and all that is a figment of the media's imagination. What I heard the president say is that official people did not have anything to do with this, so keep us out. Really, this rhetoric about let's say that she was a Nigerian. Look,
okay, now as Koku is speaking, those of you who are watching us on television, you are seeing certain photographs that are being displayed. They are international media reports, newspaper reports of what went on, and you will see the emphatic use of diplomatic passports in the international media.
So the president makes that point that he said she used diplomatic passport. It's not true. That's what effectively the president said. I'm coming. Why would you let me talk? And then she did not use a VVIP. It seems to me that the president was saying that all those things by the media were false. And so this lady was operating, and as I've heard people say on this program, it was sometimes even cleaners. Cleaners can help, can help offenders like this get through, maybe. And then after...
It's not maybe, that is the fact. That's somebody who works there. It's not maybe.
He's telling you the first time they got Ruby, it was through a cleaner who was trying to. Yeah.
So it's cleaners that did the helping. And then after the president's statement, we had the foreign media. Oh, thanks the foreign media. Now we can get to some of the facts. Look, something Ghana government should have done, calling the British authorities to get more facts in order that they could support the investigation. And then the president said, oh, let's say that she was let's say she was holding, what is that?
This submission, I don't understand it. Oh. You are simply recounting what has been played. Everybody heard it.
Yes, I'm trying to make the point that the president's conduct in this adds to the credibility issues we are facing as a country, and why we should need more investigation going forward.
You're saying that,
so the foreign media,
saying that it is okay that the president and his family are being linked to a certain lady who's been arrested with cocaine, and everything is okay with that?
I am saying that the president should have looked more into the matter and be less eager to cover the facts of an incident that has put the nation's name into shame. That's the point I'm making, that the president should not be speculating, and the president should have known more than a foreign newspaper, because Britain were friends. He should have known, instead of he telling us that that is a lie, only for us to realize from these foreign sources that in fact it is true. I want to know whether the president contacted the British authorities to know exactly, because I have seen more images than you displayed here, and I have no doubt that what that lady was holding was a diplomatic passport. If the president had engaged the authorities and gotten more information, perhaps his response would have been, yes, she's holding a diplomatic passport, but we are not too sure whether it was issued from Ghana. Then it would have been a more credible point being made by the president. But because the president was eager, the president and the government were just eager to make the point that we have nothing to do with this. Not the truth, but we had nothing to do with this. That is how come the president put that out. And then after that happened, the Minister for Communications came out again and said, well, if it turns out, after the president has said that it's a lie, the Minister for Communications says...
No, but the president didn't say it's a lie. The president said that you should cross-check and double-check before you put out information.
The president himself should have cross-checked from the British authorities. He, the president himself. Instead of saying...
That was an admonition to the media. Okay. He was speaking to journalists.
Okay. So after that, the Minister for Communications comes out and says, well, if it turns out that this lady was holding a diplomatic passport, we will investigate and see who it was that issued it. And then after that, we heard that the NACO board has now been dissolved.
Before that, we've heard that the director of passport has been interrogated.
The director of passport. So, but for, in my opinion, but for the revelations by the foreign media, we would have been stuck with the president's admonition that you media people do a good job. They don't say things you don't know, so that we all go away with the impression that, oh, it was some cleaners that helped this lady, and that would be it. But now that the foreign media told us, because the foreign media contacted the British authority, what the president should have been telling us, and what our Ministry for Communication should have been telling us, then we see officialdom now jump to show how much they want to enforce the law.
Okay.
So
thank you.
I'm concluding, please.
Thank you. It's okay.
So,
it's okay. Thank you. No, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay.
We've been talking forever. I don't really say
no. You can hit me that land, but to just cut me short when I haven't finished.
You've been talking forever.
The point I am making is that the president and the government have had to do this because of the way they themselves have related to cocaine issues in the past. And in order that the credibility of this country that has been thrown into so much question will be cleaned, there ought to be an independent investigation into this matter.
Okay.
So that we know the complicity of all those who helped her get the diplomatic passport, how she used the VIP.
Independent investigation.
We should get all that happen.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, that's where you go. And you make it into a political football. Now, Fifi, there's this angle about it where I don't know what your reaction will be about that, where people are saying, why should Victor Smith, who is the High Commissioner in the UK for Ghana, be interested in visiting this lady? You know, what do you say to that?
Let me just say that in all this, what is sad about it is you know me, I like to call it exactly the way I see it. Our friends in the NPP are desperate. Our friends in the NPP are desperate because they are trying so hard to just find an equalization for the global disgrace their Member of Parliament, Erika Martin, brought onto Ghana. So they clearly need to look for an opportunity to say, oh, there's something similar that has happened under the NDC. It's as simple as that.
Also, you agree
now,
with
unfortunately,
sorry, allow him to make his point. Sorry.
Unfortunately, in this eagerness, they are doing exactly what you call too swift to speak, and not taking their time to take all the issues on board before rushing to conclusions. Now, so for example, as you mentioned rightly, the very unfortunate issue of Francisca coming into the picture. Francisca being put on social media, standing in front of NDC vehicle, wearing NDC t-shirt, in order for them to, as it were, triumphantly proclaim that, yeah, we've got a final opportunity to say NDC and NPP are equal. Kweku and my friends in the NPP, please, that is obviously not the case.
That particular photograph that was wrongly put out there, she's got every right to take out a civil action against any newspaper that publish her photograph and try to put her in the same league as that lady.
Absolutely, I agree on that. I mean, for me, to be honest with you, the issues of the newspapers, I don't really want to go too far in that. I mean, sometimes newspapers get it wrong. It may not always be an issue of mischief. Sometimes it's also, as you clearly will know, you are trying to beat each other. You're afraid if I don't come up quick, the other newspaper will come up faster than me and get the credit. In the process, you may get it wrong. It happens. BBC gets it wrong. CNN gets it wrong. I mean, Kukubaku will tell you, I mean, you can't get it wrong. So I don't always want to say that necessarily is mischief. I'm not taking that out. I mean, knowing exactly the terrain in which we are, I mean, it shouldn't be beyond that there is clear mischief, there is almost like a conspiracy, it's a possibility, but I want to give the benefit of the doubt. But my issue had to do with our friends in the NPP. Please, just take it easy, okay? If an opportunity clearly comes, which is an opportunity of an MP belonging to the NDC being caught abroad, and obvious, then you make a case we can appreciate. But this situation where you're trying to squeeze water out of stone, please just forget it. It's not the case. That obviously is not the case. There's not about credibility issue. We are talking here about a criminal, okay? A criminal who, by every account, has been literally doing this business for ages. And obviously the system has had her name, Ruby, appear as she's being called. Obviously somebody who is a consummate professional and therefore has changed her name almost 1,000 times, has actually, just today's confirmation, clearly did a similar thing in 2009 using what you call low-level employees at the airport to be able to get it done. Obviously, from this account, it clearly shows that she's so sophisticated in what she does in a manner in which she can literally walk onto the plane without taking it, and then get an accomplice to be able to bring it on board. But you know what? The good thing is that for every thief, there is a day of reckoning, and her day of reckoning has come. And as a country, we must actually celebrate the fact that she has been caught. I'm happy that 3 persons, in addition, have been arrested. And from what you just said, a certain mastermind, a certain Alaji's name is coming up. I'm saying we should leave no stone unturned to get to the very bottom of this issue to ensure that not only Ruby, but whoever is connected with Ruby or whoever the masterminds of Ruby might be, we should arrest them. Whether they are NDC, whether they are MPP, whether they are CPP, we don't care. They are criminals, they must be dealt with because they absolutely are doing things that are a disgrace to Ghana and they must be dealt with. Now, the other thing I would say is this, that it's pretty obvious also that it's not only our good friends in the MPP who are being swift to speak, but also NACOB, I think, has been too swift to speak. I mean, there's no need to want to rush to show that, oh, you know, we are not really negligent. But I think really the anxiety to speak was that, to show that, you know what, we are really on top of the job. Listen, institutions are not perfect. We should clearly be pushing for perfection, but clearly they will have imperfections. It's not just NACOP. I mean, I think even the highest institutions in the UK, US, sometimes may have some of these lapses. They are not excusable, but it clearly shows that they are humans, and therefore people could be literally among them who may be compromised. So the important thing is to be able to say, listen, this did not happen. Obviously, until it can be proven to the contrary, I mean, if the UK authorities are to be believed, they did this possibly on their own tip-off, or possibly maybe somebody in Ghana tipped them off, but not through a systematic collaboration with NACOP, if that's what it says. Yeah, so NACOP doesn't need to want to overextend itself, wanting to establish that in this particular case, we collaborated. NACOP clearly has collaborated very closely in recent years, and that must be acknowledged. We must commend them. Maybe this particular one, it beat them. Maybe Ruby in particular has proven to be an extremely very sophisticated person. Obviously, if Ruby is able to do the kind of things that she does with the passport, I'm thinking that possibly Watson's examples of getting passport and coming back to this kind of a woman's part or whatever, Ruby obviously is in very good company, learning very quickly, you know, and we clearly must leave no stone unturned until we get to the bottom of this matter.
Okay.
All those things are just speculation.
Thank you very much. And someone is suggesting to you, Kwekuku, I think that, so what would you have done if you were in that case, that your sister or that your family is being dragged into this issue? You would have expected the president to keep quiet because his family was being dragged in, the NDC was being brought in by some of the report, and so, you know, it was okay for them to get in.
Well, I tell you, my response is that the president himself, if he had gotten to the authorities and given us accurate information, the things even Fifi said would not have been said. The attempt to give us inaccurate information when the whole government
answer to the linkage of the president to this matter. That's the question he's asking.
Okay, thank you. Let's move on.
We don't know.
So you expect him to keep quiet? You expect him to keep quiet?
We should have investigation.
So he should keep quiet.
Okay, let's move on. Let's move on. Let's move
That's
on.
okay.
Let's move on.
Kwekuku says I should make the last one.
You should cool down.
Yes, Kwekuku, what would be your final thoughts on this?
Well, NACOP, it's good that we are getting to a stage where we all think something ought to be done about NACOP, a certain surgical operation. Indeed, I recall it was one of the recommendations that the Georgina Wood Committee made.
The 77 parcels.
That's right. And if you recall, a finding was one of the findings was to the effect that NACOP received the intel from our foreign partners and kept it for 4 or 5 days within its exclusive jurisdiction before it began to call on Air Force, Navy, and National Security for help. And within that 4 or 5 days of delay, the cargo was hijacked. That was a serious defect, and it is documented. Don't forget that 5 kilos of the 77 parcels even got lost within NACOP's jurisdiction, which then led to the 2 top shots being asked to proceed on leave. I've seen other documents that shows, you know, that between 2001 up to 2008, the SEF's personnel at the airport and NACOP personnel were having all sorts of fights over how to tackle drug couriers and people who were sending drugs out. These are documented. It led to some interdictions, and yet I'm not sure we've been curing that mischief the way it ought to have been cured. Now, to be honest with you, if you listen to the president carefully, he was talking of ethical violation.
Right.
In terms of our profession. Story here, story there, using this photograph that was wrong. I mean, ethics, not following the ethics. This is the business of the National Media Commission. This is not
but you
business.
invited him to come and speak on matters relating to journalists.
Please,
His audience was the media.
No, but you got me wrong. I'm not talking of where he was speaking.
Exactly. Go on, Kwekuku.
So you got it wrong. You are not listening.
Just go on.
The point I'm making is that the emphasis the president himself was making was clear about ethical violation. So I assume you would admitting that that was a classic example of ethical violation. I am saying the port of call should have been the National Media Commission and not the BNI. That's my point. And indeed, we've moved on, as the president himself indicated, as a nation and as a media and as a government. And I think that's what we should be doing. when such perceived infractions take place, let's go to the right mechanism and seek the right cure.
Dr.
Now,
Kusinin tells us of the frightening impact to our whole economy and even our image as a country.
I agree.
I don't know. Koku Kating is also saying, let's look for an independent inquiry into why do we want to continue to go back and forth over independent inquiries?
Where did she get the diplomatic passport? All those questions are...
Well, we don't know if she had it. We have to find out if she indeed had it.
We are really desperate over this diplomatic passport.
And investigations are going on. We understand that
even the
director of passport has been questioned.
The court proceedings.
Sorry, allow Koku to talk.
The proceedings in the UK will reveal a lot.
That is right.
So the Ghanaian media should keep an eye on the proceedings, and a lot will come out from it. You can't hide anything.
Absolutely.
So some of these things, I'm very relaxed about it. I'm not in a hurry to make conclusions.
Okay.
But you see, there's also this tagging, attempt to criminalize and demonize. And we've spoken of the lady. I sympathize with her. She has my support. As you indicated, she could go for a civil action.
Correct.
But the tagging didn't start today. I believe Nana Akufo-Addo, he has got blood running through his veins. He's a Ghanaian citizen. And yet we have tagged him and tagged him and tagged him without providing an iota of evidence. He's a human being. He's got children, and not just him, many others. His brother, Bonti, you remember?
Yeah.
The NDC held a press conference, part of their campaign, and claimed that he was sitting in a house that belonged to a drug dealer, and that the house had been deconfiscated by the state and given to him. It turned out to be a lie. He had children. He had blood running through his veins. That's what we've been doing.
I've asked that question before to his legal team once, why they were not also interested
They filed a
in
writ. They filed a writ against the good old Professor Mills and the Ghana Palava. Eventually, Palava retracted and apologized. Professor Mills went for a quiet settlement, and the matter was dropped. But I have all those writs, statement of claim, defense, everything. It was settled in a gentlemanly way. Okay, but
so that's why you're
this
trying to
tagging
equalize?
must stop. No, I am absolutely for stopping it. Or if we tag, we point fingers, let's bring evidence. Otherwise, please, it's completely unfair. It's going on.
All right.
Against the president, against Randy Abe, against Ibrahim. Look, let's challenge people who do this tagging to provide evidence.
And those people too who are tagged, you ought to know that you have a right of a court action.
I agree. I think we should go to that
against them. That's the point.
Yes.
And of course, like Koku said, the trial in London will reveal a lot more. And if no media entity in Ghana is attending, well, Ginably has served us notice that the Daily Guide will be there. They will bring us a lot more info.
If only
so,
to be correct.
So those who are talking,
knowing them,
that's not fair. That's not fair. That's not fair.
But that's true.
No.
Who doesn't know
now,
we all make mistakes.
Before we draw the curtains on this, on today's edition of the show, and thanks for the extension, though. Now, what do you have to say? You are I called you the
newest addition.
Newest initiate occupier. Occupy Ghana has continued with momentum, and like Isan Kuma would say, they are thumping our minds and hearts. You cannot forget them.
Yes.
The Setekwe has demonstrated clearly in the budget that they are listening. Dr. Manebuama suggested that yes, this is a good move. The Auditor General has also issued a reply saying that, look, even though I'm not subject to you, I'm independent, which is not necessary though. He says we will provide you the necessary information.
Yes, it's a very focused group, driven by huge brain power. That's what I love. They seek to focus on specific instances of bad governance or corruption, interrogate it, and take initiatives on it. That is, for me, what has appealed.
And you want to support their research department?
I would do so. I would do so. And it will not be selective research. It's going to cut across our political history, including the contemporary one. Because I think it's very important that we encourage such movements. You see, the only thing that disturbs me is the attempt to tag them or bastardize them. People in government should not get too defensive and oversensitive. Okay, some of the things they are doing and putting out now, I can say we are doing or going to do, would rather help create the space for good governance. So I really don't think there should be any attempt to tag or bastardize them. I've unfortunately also heard of things that are going beyond tagging. I didn't listen, actually. I was later told, apparently, Sydney made those hands. I missed that part.
Yes.
But I'm hoping that really it's just accidents.
Dr. Esi Ansan Ashesi has been beguiled, and they suggest that this might have been what happened, that was targeted. She's been beguiled. She spoke at the first one. That was not the first, it was the second forum, but the first on corruption. She's been beguiled, her mobile phones and other gadgets were taken away, including money.
General Mosquito has been beguiled.
And then also, there are two other members, Leslie Hayford and Egbert Fable. Somehow, mysteriously, the knots or whatever to their car tires were all removed.
I am praying, I'm hoping that we aren't going back to the dark days. At this stage, I have no way of substantiating, but these are Ghanaian citizens who are feeling that somebody is trying to do something dangerous to them. Let's hope that the security services, even if these matters have not been reported to them, will start doing something about it. But I'm just hoping we don't go back to the dark days.
Okay. Now, the suggestions that people in governments are uncomfortable with comments that have to do with corruption. Dr. Clement Apak wants to make this clear. He says that it is totally untrue to suggest, as Kwaku Kwarteng has done, and Kwaku Baako is suggesting a while ago also, that government appointees are uncomfortable speaking about waste in public sector and corruption. The actions initiated and planned by this government to deal with waste in the public sector and to fight corruption is unprecedented. That is Dr.
Something.
Park.
I said government people should not be defensive or oversensitive. Overly sensitive.
Right.
I have heard some of them say things that really are unwarranted relative to the work of Occupy Ghana. That's why I made that point.
Right. Fifi, what do you say about Occupy Ghana's move? They appear to be targeting specific institutions and calling on them to do what we pay them to do anyway.
I think it's good. We need that. The system clearly needs to move more and more towards as much perfection as possible. I think generally that's not just an issue in Ghana. It's an issue all over Africa, all over the developing world. We need to rise to the levels where the developed world is, and that the only way we can do is to keep, as it were, pushing ourselves. The same applies to Parliament. We should be able to do far better than we've done. The same applies to the executive, the judiciary.
Well, they're planning that very soon they may be occupying Parliament.
Across various institutions. I think there's really nothing wrong at all with that. My only thing is this, you know what, in this country, oftentimes, I mean, we have all these and they come in the form of various guises, but they tend to be pretty much one-dimensional. Just like, for example, the way GBA used to be absolutely so very vociferous, asking for better governance as long as it was the NDC, and as soon as their darling MPP comes into power for 8 years, they go silent into a long sabbatical.
It's right. It's right. In fact, the GBA
they actually
the GBA went to conference and indicated that they were not going to comment on political matters again. In fact, they are injuncted to even comment on politics. But they've not gone back to Congress to undo that.
Absolutely.
So in my view, they are even not qualified to comment on political matters.
We are running out of time.
I thought you gave me time to... I've not even made my point.
Well, my quick comment is I worry that increasingly we're beginning to trivialize corruption. That anytime you mention corruption, somebody is quick to say, oh, when is this party's time and when is this party's time? I am particularly happy that this crusade has been taken up by people who are not politicians.
Oh, are you sure about that?
Because anytime people like me would comment, they say, oh, are you not being politics? And this,
are you sure about that?
This morning, I have been told that it is even primitive and old-fashioned to discuss corruption as one of the reasons.
Nobody said that today. Stop lying. The public heard us.
Corruption. Sorry, it's not primitive. Corruption.
You are lying.
Corruption is not primitive.
I can't have my time.
Please forgive me. Please forgive me. We have run out of time. You've been listening to and watching Newsfile, coming to you live from Kokomlemle. This is your Joy News channel on Multi TV. It was on Joy 99.7 and Love 99.5 in Kumasi and over a dozen affiliate stations. Also in the UK and elsewhere in Europe. It's been your Sky channel on the ABN television. I'm Samson Ladi. And my guests have been Abdul Malik Kubako Jr., Fifi Kwete, Kuku Kwating, and Abraham Amaliba. Thank you very much and have a good afternoon. We'll come your way next week with another interesting edition. My shirt, as always, is provided by Latida. Thank you.